For most of you that don't know, I'm from Mexico. And I'm an architect. I got my first degree in Mexico at the National University. And I always was interested in housing. And I was interested in housing for the poor, right from the beginning, especially because when I was in Mexico, a big earthquake took place there in 1985 that killed thousands of people and left thousands of people homeless. And most of them were the poor. So when I finished my degree, I wanted to study how to improve housing conditions for the poor. It was very clear to me that. So I spoke to one professor there at the University of Mexico, and I said, you know what, I want to go to study that, but I don't want to do it in a conventional way. I don't want to go and learn how to design buildings for housing or housing units. I want to go beyond that. And he said, you know what, I got this publication recently, and he showed me a publication that it was called The Eco-Operation. I don't know if you've seen it. And he said, it seems that these guys are doing something different. Why don't you write to them? So I wrote to them. I wrote to McGill. And I got the prospect of the program. And I said, I'm not really sure what they do, to be honest with you. But certainly it's going to be different. So I applied. And I got accepted. And the Quebec government generously financed my studies. So I came here. And I found an amazing new building. A very small group of students, we were 5 at that time, 2 full-time professors, Vikram and Vital, and basically all the libraries and all the faculty of architecture at our disposal. So we could go and talk to them and took courses everywhere. So it was fantastic, I have to say. I stayed here for my master's degree, and then I was invited to stay for 5 more years doing research and teaching, together with Vital and then later with Vikram. And that allowed me to participate in fieldwork studies. Yesterday, Robert was talking about his experience in India, and brought back memories because I did the same. I went also to the Vastu Shilpa. I did research there. I visited Aranya, I did slum surveys, but I also went to China, and the whole Housing a Billion was a whole experience. So when I finished all that, I said, you know what, I want to continue doing this for the rest of my life. So I talked to Vikram, and I said, if you want to do it, you have to do a PhD, because otherwise you will never get a job. So I did that. I went to Bartlett, and I did that. So, what I got from McGill at that time, during that period, I have to say, I have to focus on 2 things, big things. The first thing was that I got a very sound foundation on the theoretical and analytical way of looking at housing as a process. And I got really interested in the progressive development of houses. I was somehow obsessed with that. Because I knew that in Mexico, but I never understood really, and I didn't understand the connection of that with the public housing that was being produced in my country, the conventional housing. So here I did my thesis on that, basically learning how the people, when they were in control of the housing process, were like building their houses. But beyond that, when I went to do my PhD, I also continued with the studies, and I wanted to see how the public housing, the policies incorporated the housing process, the progressive development of houses when the process is under control of the people. So that's what I did. The other thing that was very important for me here at McGill was that it gave me basically a philosophy of approaching my professional life in the development field. The first thing was that if we wanted to look for solutions, housing solutions that were appropriate to people, you have to put the people at the center of the whole thing. You have to understand how they live, what are their needs, what are their aspirations, what are their priorities. The connection between, for example, the sizes of the houses and the incomes have nothing to do with that, how they use their spaces. All those things I learned here. And the other thing that was very important for me and became almost as a philosophy for my work is you have to think out of the box. You want to find solutions that are appropriate and effective. Think out of the box. All the research that we're doing here was a really teaching experience that I could never be thankful for that, because it was so useful, really, having this kind of mentality of being open-minded and look for alternatives that were not the conventional. So when I went to do my PhD in the Bartlett, part of my research was to investigate the role that multilateral institutions were having in the policies and programs that were being developed in my region, which is Latin America. And I saw the terrible work that the World Bank was doing. And you said it. And then I saw the magnificent work that the Inter-American Development Bank was doing. For those who don't know who the Inter-American Development Bank is the largest source of development financing in Latin America and the Caribbean. Okay, and we're very good. And so when I did that, I basically, before finishing my thesis, a professor of mine came and he said, "There's an opportunity at the IDB. Why don't you apply?" I hadn't finished my thesis at that time. I applied and I got the position. I became a junior specialist in housing and urban development, and since then, well, I got a PhD, obviously. But then I've been there for almost 20 years, and I've been basically escalating in the process of now I'm a lead specialist, and it's a very rewarding position. In that position right now, I basically conduct dialogue with authorities on policies at the national and local level. I lead multidisciplinary teams in the design and implementation of housing and urban development. I also conduct research, or lead teams doing research, applied research, especially that improve the solutions that we propose for housing and urban development. And the most interesting part for me is that it gives me the opportunity of identifying, conceptualizing, developing new initiatives or strategies that contribute to produce better housing and better cities. Those basically are the responsibilities I hold there. And that has taken me all over Latin America. I've worked in 20 countries. I lived in 4 countries. I live in Brazil, where I was the main responsible for the urban portfolio. In Colombia, right now in Panama, I spent also 5 years in Washington. Our work is based basically in development programs, but also a very important research portfolio that is focused on sustainability, inclusion, and resilience. Mm-hmm. So all those things are put into practicing the different programs that we are financing. I think I don't have the time to talk about the programs, but if there is a time during the conversation, I can give you some ideas on the programs that I'm working right now. They're very interesting, and well, with that, I'll leave it like that before you put the time. But I think I was fine,
That
right?
was perfect.
I'm
Yeah.
the first one that put. Thank you.